Hello, folks. This is Mr. Dan coming to you from the Landscape Design Classroom, and today I'm going to be talking to you about understanding the nature of ag chemicals. So, what is a chemical, and what makes some chemicals hazardous while others are not? Chemical has a different meaning, often described as a substance produced by or used in a chemical process, or a broader use of it. All of the physical elements around us that we can touch, see, or taste, often used in combination with other words. So some chemical elements, substances that cannot be broken down by any chemical means listed in the periodic table. Examples of this include oxygen, iron, and gold. And the three most important elements that we talk about in this class are in fertilizer, which are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So some chemical reactions. What takes place when chemicals combine and are transformed into different substances? Some examples here an example here would be when the elements hydrogen and oxygen are combined in the proper ratio to form water. So for you folks that don't know, water is known as H2O. Chemical compounds, a pure substance of constant composition made up of two or more chemical elements. An example of a chemical compound in fertilizer would be ammonium nitrate. And if you take a look at the picture on the right, that is a bag of ammonium nitrate right there. So what are chemicals? A term applied to many things. It can be ordinary substances we use and handle every day. It can be special products that are very useful, but must be used with great care. We study a lot about different types of pesticides and other chemicals in here that you need a pesticides license in Pennsylvania to use. And we'll be getting into that a little bit later. So what makes some chemicals harmful? May be harmful if used in an unintended way. Potentially harmful properties, which are flammable, easily set on fire, corrosive, will corrode containers or damage human tissue, toxic, which is poisonous, and irritability, which is abnormal or excessive sensitivity. So whenever you're taking a look at a pesticides label or the container or locker that these chemicals can be in, you'll typically notice one of these small diamonds, and that's what each one of these means. So harmful if used in an unintended way. Gasoline must be flammable to produce power by exploding in the cylinder of an automobile. That same characteristic makes it very dangerous to light a match near spilled gasoline. So that's why you're not allowed to smoke or do anything with an open flame around a gasoline pump. Factors in the toxicity of a chemical, nature and rate of breakdown of the chemical itself, amount of absorbed chemical, route of exposure. You can do this 4 different ways: through mouth, skin, eyes, or lungs. Length of exposure, frequency of exposure, species, age, size, and health. So the risk formula, risk equals hazard times exposure. The risk formula explains why tiny amounts of pesticide residue found in foods or in drinking water are not considered hazardous to human health. So if we take a look at this little diagram here on the side from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, we have a pesticide monitoring program, domestic compared to imports. So we're going to see in the blue here, samples with no pesticide residue, and it would just give you a breakdown of how that's going to look. So synthetic versus natural chemicals. Natural chemicals are produced by animals and plants. Synthetic chemicals developed and produced by humans. And what about safety? So many synthetic containers or chemicals are a duplication of chemicals that occur in nature. Some natural chemicals can be toxic, while their synthetic duplicate may be less toxic. So there's a lot of chemicals out there that are recreated from nature to be less toxic to people, but still have that same type of power needed to perform its function. So a little more on natural toxins used by some plants to ward off insects and grazing animals, used by scientists to learn how to produce synthetic pesticides. And nicotine is a good example here, a toxic chemical produced in tobacco plants, but used by scientists to develop a similar synthetic product. Nature's poisons, many found in rainforest plants, an important source of information for new insecticides, drugs, and other products. So there are a lot of researchers down in the rainforest looking at various plants, learning about their properties, and then being used in various items. Botulin, a dangerous natural chemical, the most toxic chemical known, produced by Clostridium botulinum bacteria found in all kinds of soils, thrives on many foods, can be destroyed with proper cooking, can be caused by improperly prepared home canned foods. So rhubarb and shellfish toxins. Rhubarb leaves contain soluble oxalate. Shellfish, such as mussels, clams, scallops, and oysters, can become contaminated with toxic algae. So alpha toxin, a naturally occurring toxin that is produced from a soil-borne fungi, can be a problem following a hot, humid season. Affected crops include corn, peanuts, wheat, and legumes. Possible effects, death to livestock, and glows brightly under ultraviolet light. But some other toxic plants, fescue grass, black nightshade, and leaves of black cherry trees. Toxic chemicals used as a plant defense, dangerous in dry years when grazing animals are hungry. And that's just a photo of some different toxic plants right there. That looks like some fescue grasses, and fescues are pretty typical to Pennsylvania. So don't just like grab and start eating it. So bottom line here, scientists have learned much from natural toxins in order to make synthetic substances. The purpose of chemical research is to develop products that are effective in controlling pests without creating a risk for humans. And synthetic pesticides used today are thoroughly screened to rule out those which would represent a high risk to human health or the environment. So that's the end of my presentation. If you have any other questions about various toxins, pesticides, chemicals, please give me a call down here in the landscape design classroom or catch me during class. But I appreciate your time, folks, and have a great day.